Buddha once said, "We are what we think about most," and that's because thoughts become things. It is so important that you and your child develop positive thinking. The power and the importance of positive thinking is instrumental to success in anyone, not just yourself or your child, and anyone to succeed in life. I'm your host, Dr. Jana Schwandt, and our show is going to provide you some tools, inspiration, and motivation to success. We're going to provide you a show that will truly help you to dream big, think positive, and take action. We're going to bring you interviews from people across this great state of Kansas. We're going to bring you leaders from this community. We're going to bring you teachers, coaches. We're going to bring you military leaders and some great people to inspire and motivate you. So please stay tuned. We have a great show for you today.
Every individual has value and the right to be treated with dignity. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and are dedicated to the worth of each person. To help DSNBK give the best of a vast array of services, we invite you to log on to our Plan Giving website. It features valuable ideas on ways to plan for the future and receive benefits. Lives are transformed by your support of people with disabilities for generations to come. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas.
Hi, I'm Seth Castle, owner of Castle Books Publishing here in Hays, Kansas. I've purchased advertising time here on Eagle Community Television to help support veteran-owned small businesses in our community. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and would be interested in using this advertising time, please go to my website, www.castlebooks.com, and click on the Veterans Outreach tab. Thank you for your time and thank you for your service.
He cries in the corner where nobody sees. He's the kid with the story no one would believe. He prays every night, "Dear God, won't you please, could you send someone here who will love me?"
Help a child know they're special. Adopt. Call or go online to learn how.
Who will love me for me?
Simon's tax, accounting, and financial planners have been trusted by their clients for decades. At Simon's, they take a holistic approach with a comprehensive portfolio of services for their clients. Make your appointment today and enjoy a better tomorrow for you and your family. Simon's Tax, Accounting, and Financial Planners, 1007 Cody Avenue in Hays.
Hello everyone and welcome to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwandt. I'm your host, Dr. Jana Schwandt, and I have a very interesting guest here. I have Annette Kennedy, and Annette is a current court-appointed special advocate, so she volunteers for CASA. She's also a former high school teacher and currently does some substituting, and she was my high school teacher back when I was a senior in high school, and I got kicked out of her class, out of her music class. So always fun to rehash that story. But I'm very excited to have you on, so thank you so much for...
Thank you for having me. This is really amazing.
No, I'm excited for this one, so this will be fun.
Well, good. This will be fun.
Now, Annette, could you tell me a little bit about yourself, kind of who you are and what you do?
Going back, I guess, I was in 4-H, and so I just loved teaching kids and seeing them get that aha moment of, oh, I understand the project or whatever. And so that kind of boosted me into, I want to be a teacher, and I have a passion for music. I really like math, so I thought about that for a while. But music won out, which is a difficult subject to teach because
yeah, when you have students like me.
Well, no. Okay, and we're going to talk about that. But I was teaching really middle school up, and it's still required for a lot of middle school kids to take, and it's not cool for a lot of middle school boys anymore. They get bullied and made fun of if they do like music. And when that was my passion, and they were saying, this is stupid, why do I have to be there, that really hurt. And so over a 17-year span, I taught 12 years in there because I did stay home with some of my children for a bit. And the year I did teach Jamie, it was my first year at that school, third year teaching. I was like 24, so he was 18. So, you know, not a lot of age difference. And sometimes kids relate to the younger teachers better, and sometimes they think they can pull something over on them. And I always had a heart for the foster kids, so I probably let you get away with a little bit more.
Kicked out a little earlier.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But it was not my decision to have you kicked out. Yes, after an incident that happened at a concert in a different town, I did take a mental health day the next day. And my principal at the time, well, he's still there, decided that it was best that you and another student be removed from my class. And since then, I must say, Jamie did contact me on Facebook, wrote me a huge apology letter, and I was like, dude, I don't even remember what happened. And
now that was Jeff Yoxel as the principal, and then
we're gonna throw him under the bus too.
Yeah, Jeff's a good guy, and then Matt Flint was the other one to get kicked out with me. I think
it was Matt.
Yeah, so Matt
Hi,
Flint.
Matt.
So.
Yeah. So, but you know, kiddos act like they act, and I've had much worse said and done to me probably since then as a teacher, which is why I don't teach anymore. But I love subbing. Yeah, I don't even remember the circumstances totally, and. It's really cool to have kids come back once they're adults like you and say, man, I know I screwed up and I apologize. And
fun to talk about now.
It is, yeah, we joke around a lot.
Now tell me a little bit about Annette as a CASA volunteer.
Like I said, I've always had a heart for foster kids. I've always felt that, you know, I mean, how are these kids supposed to even come to school? Why would you want to listen to a music teacher, you know, when you don't even know who you're living with maybe the next week, whose house you're going to after school, are you going to get a meal, are you going to have to go back with your bios because the court makes you? So that's why I think I always kind of let the foster kids slide by with a few things. So I would love to be a foster parent, but I have 3 children of my own that 15, 12 and a half, and 9 that, you know, are keeping me on my toes, and I just know I couldn't give the foster kids the attention that they need, because they need, you know, they're coming from a really broken situation and they need the love and support, and I also don't want to take away from my own kids. And so you kind of inspired me when you wrote your first book, and then I heard you speak twice, and I thought about fostering before, but then I was like, dude, I really want to now after hearing this. But then I knew, and you said, be a CASA. You would be great at that, because I do have the heart for it. So I contacted CASA in March of this year, and I got assigned to my first case in June and went to my first hearing in July. Actually got sworn in about 5 minutes before that started, and I knew a little background because I actually knew the family. It's a kind of strange situation. I was working at Miles Furniture at the time, and
in Phillipsburg, Kansas.
In Phillipsburg, Kansas. There we go. They have now gone out of business.
Oh, really?
But yeah, unfortunately. But I think, and the people that these kiddos ended up being placed with came in shopping, and they had just gotten out of a court case in June and just like could not believe what had happened, and because they expected a very different outcome. And they just kind of walked like zombies, because it was right across the street from the courthouse, in and just kind of unloaded. And we probably talked for 45 minutes to an hour. So before I was even appointed to this case, I knew a lot of the history of it. And then Tony Miller, who is our District 17th District, Director of CASA, assigned me to this case. But he said, it's your first case, there's 5 kids involved, so we're both on the case. But he lives in Osborne and I live in Phillipsburg, and I'm a lot closer to where these kids are. So I get over there a little bit more often when I can fit it around my kids' schedules. But yeah, I do have these 5 kids. I've fallen in love with them.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about, so I remember our conversation when you asked me, you know, because I think you were debating about being a foster parent or what you wanted to do, and then we brought up a close friend of both of ours, Clella Hahn, who was my CASA worker, who unfortunately lost the battle to cancer and is no longer with us. And but you know, I actually put Clella, I think I told you about it in my second book, Finding a Hero, that's coming out. She's
Can't wait for that one.
And she's one of the characters in the book. But I remember telling you that you could be kind of another kid's Clella Hahn. Because I remember Clella and her husband Lowell, they would come and grab me and my brother and take us out for pizza, and they would be the ones we would vent to, and they would be our advocates, and it was just awesome, and they were inspirational people. Was she an inspiration to you?
Oh my gosh, when you said you could be like Clella, that was like such an honor, because I always held her. So she and Lowell, when we first moved to Phillipsburg, we went to the same church, which, you know, you were in church.
Yeah, they used to give me a hard time because they would tell me about how bad I was acting in school, so.
But anyways, yeah, she was a huge impact. Lowell was a huge impact on my life, being young and newly married. And so when you're like, well, you could be Clella, I was like, I can't even imagine myself living up to her abilities. And so, that just really inspired me too. She was still with us at the time and battling that awful disease. And, and I thought, if I could be kind of a legacy of what I saw her do, I would love to carry that on in the same county for other kids.
Yeah, and in Phillips County. And I think you're definitely going to do it, and you're doing it now. And so, I mean, it's so powerful that a volunteer for CASA, what they could do for a foster child. So, it's pretty powerful. And then, of course, when we were out of foster care, I stayed in contact with them. Oh,
absolutely. That's what I plan with these kids. And I'm sure I'll get assigned a new case eventually when hopefully this is all over in the court. But these kiddos will be, they're mine. Just as all my kiddos I've ever taught are mine.
Well, let's chat a little bit about foster care, if you don't mind. Let's talk about, so there's a lot of things that need improvement and a lot of things that are actually going right and that are working well. Let's start with the things that are working well. Are there anything specifically that you can think of that's working well that we can build on?
I think there are a lot of really good foster kids out there, or foster parents, foster parents that, treat these kids as their own, give them a safe place to live, get them out of a situation that wasn't healthy for them, and they're doing it right, and I think we just need to encourage more people that have that devotion and willingness. I can, I have people in my school or in our town that they've pretty much adopted these kids, and they don't have their last name, but these kids have been with them. We have a student that's my daughter's age that they've had him since he was 4 or younger, and now he's 15.
Oh, wow.
So these are his parents, and there was a chance reintegration was going to happen, and then another situation happened, and we were like celebrating that these kids got to stay where they're at because they're thriving. And I think to build, like you said, to build on it, we just need to encourage more families, husbands and wives, moms and dads out there to take that leap of faith and become foster parents and say, yeah, we could do that. We could help these kids.
And like I said, there are some great foster parents that we can build on. I mean, I had some very tremendous foster parents.
Absolutely.
And if we could just build on some of the great things they're doing, like build on when I was in Kensington, those Bob Beerleys of the world, those Fred and Dolores Painters of the world. I have to throw those names out there.
Exactly.
Some great people out there. Anything else you can think of that's going well, that if we could just tap into, in some different areas. I know Phillipsburg and Kensington, some of those areas, the great communities that they have, and in Hayes America, the great communities that we have. Is there anything that we're doing that maybe some of the larger communities that could build on maybe?
I think there's a lot of support for the foster parents. Deidre
Now Tweedy.
Tweedy, yes, in Kensington, has kind of taken over a lot of that and just really supports the families. I think there's a lot of education. She really supports those people. And so I think that's vital because fostering can be overwhelming because these kids come so broken. And lots of times, oh my gosh, I had no idea. You start hearing these stories and it just breaks your heart.
So it's the community's involved in the community embracing foster parenting, embracing the foster children as their own.
And teaching the other kids at school that, hey, these are just other kids. I know when my kids are in grade school, they're just like, we have a new kid in school. And it's not said, oh, they're a foster kid. Now, I know with your experience, going into junior high and high school, the kids sometimes know a little more and maybe judge them a little more or stay away because they don't know. But I know in our elementary school, my kids never knew. And I would know, oh, they're a foster student. But they never knew, like, oh, we're going to judge them. And I think our teachers do a really good job of, he just moved here, you know, and it's not like, oh, what does your mom and dad do, you know, that sort of thing. They just accept them. And I think that's amazing for the foster kid to feel accepted in the community.
No, that's great, and it goes along with the stigma with foster care. But let's take a break.
You bet.
Let's continue this discussion and these thoughts. We're going to take a commercial break.
Okay.
So please come back. We're going to take a brief commercial break, and then we'll be back with our awesome interview with Annette Kennedy.
Learn more about us at januscampaign.org.
Your child deserves to know you care, even if you can't be by her side every day. If you owe the state of Kansas for back child support, we've got a new program that helps you pay down your debt while paving the way for your child's higher education. It takes just a $25 investment to get started. Learn more at www.dcf.ks.gov. Helping you build a healthy family and support your child to succeed.
Hello, I am Dr. Jamie Schwandt, and as a former foster child, I want to give back and help others succeed. I've wrote 2 books dedicated to foster families. Last year, I wrote Succeeding as a Foster Child. This book is a roadmap for success for foster children. My second book, Finding Your Hero, was recently published. This book is a children's book for foster children and provides a positive message for foster families. These books are great resources for foster families and can be found at jamieschwandt.com. Thank you and God bless.
At Eagle Communications, we're proud to provide the communications services you need to get the most from today's technology. Our employee owners make it happen. We're part of your community, and we take pride in delivering excellent customer service. If you ever have a question, give us a call. We're here to help. Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Welcome back to Dreaming Big with Dr. Schwandt. I'm Dr. Schwandt, and I'm here with our guest, Annette Kennedy. So Annette, we were talking a little bit before the break. We mentioned briefly about stigma. Now, in foster care, at least from my perception, there's a stigma, but there's stigmas with just about everything. And I wrote about it in my doctoral dissertation and in my book, Succeeding as a Foster Child. There's foster care stigma, where as a foster child, you almost feel, you know, that like people expect you to fail. You feel like, you know, that you're just an outcast, and it's not a good feeling. Even though now I kind of use it to my advantage, and you know, when I talk to foster children, I talk to them about, hey, use this to rise above, prove people wrong, and do great things. Right. What have you seen? You mentioned in Phillipsburg, Kansas, in grade school, the stigma really isn't there. Now, I know when I went to Kensington, the stigma was there from my perception, but I don't really think the community had anything to do with it. Right. And it's hard to hide being a foster child in Kensington, Kansas.
Absolutely.
When you have 500 people in the town.
Right.
But is there anything you want to talk about with stigma in foster care or even in teaching?
Right. I think one of the hardest things is sometimes these kids are ripped out of like Wichita, Kansas. Mm-hmm. And so they're used to a huge city and a huge school, and then they're placed in this tiny little town, you know, classes of 15 or in Phillipsburg we have a few, bigger classes, 56, 60 kids, and it's hard not to stick out as different, mm-hmm. They lots of times don't come with anything but the clothes on their back. And I know there's foster parents that, they've tried to buy clothes ahead of time, but they never know what age size kid they're gonna get. And so sometimes that first time they walk through that door, maybe they're targeted a little bit. And sad to say, but I know there are probably teachers that have a preconceived notion that, oh great, it's another foster kid. Is he gonna cause issues? What am I gonna deal with in my class? I already have these other students that maybe aren't even foster kids that cause issues, So I hate that that happens, but it's reality.
Yeah.
You know, you have to look at it that, you know, if a teacher has had a lot of bad experience with foster kids, they can't help but maybe have a little bit of stigma or I don't know the word I'm looking for, but bias, there it is, bias as to it. But like I say, our grade school, I think, does an amazing job of, there's plenty of kids in the special ed program that are not foster kids. And so, like, I know my kids never thought anything of, oh, so-and-so gets pulled out when we have English class. They get pulled out and go to the special ed class. They don't think, oh, it must be a foster kid. Because there's plenty of kids that they've grown up with since preschool. They get pulled out, you know. But I think it's really important to break that stigma, which my other platform is mental illness stigma. I've dealt with that. We won't get into that much, but you know, we need to break those stigmas and look at the person, not their situation. Look at the person and not their illness, and make them feel accepted and like a person. Because lots of times they come from a situation where they were neglected or abused or whatever, and they were made to feel less than a person. And a lot of my friends who do deal with mental illness, that's why. Because as a child, they experienced those kinds of situations. And thank God, like, there's people out there that made you feel more accepted, the adults in your life. But even in the foster care program, there's sometimes adults that don't provide that for the kids.
And you're right, that's very important that you have that support. Even if, I'll look at from my, you know, kind of from my foxhole. So growing up in foster care and you know, having these negative experiences, I needed those positive people around me, even like you. So you know, you kicked me out of your class.
Sometimes you gotta learn a lesson the hard way, though,
but
right?
You need those people.
Make you a better person.
Even if you had that stigma. So foster children, I still encourage them to use, it's all right to be different.
Right.
You know, use that to fire you up, to really get you going. You know, truly successful people are just upset about something. So use that to you know, to fire you up. But also, you have to have that positive support system. Right. Otherwise, you can have, you know, all this motivation, but you're going to use it the wrong way.
Right. Well, and I love your idea of using that to fire you up, because it's like, I'm going to overcome this. And that's what I always saw with you. I remember you lived with your grandparents for a while. I remember driving by their house and thinking, that's where Jamie lives. And you were fighting it. I think I just knew you were going to be successful, because you did. I mean, yes, you were an angry young man for a while, but why wouldn't you be, you know? But then I saw a change, and I just knew after seeing you at church, like with Clella and Lowell, you know, use it to say, I'm never going back. I'm going to stop the cycle, because how many kiddos go back to their bios, and then they have kids, and the cycle continues. And these kids need to say, I'm so angry for the way I was treated, and use that and say, I'm stopping it here. And you know, now look at you, you have your beautiful wife and your beautiful daughter, and you stopped the cycle. And that makes me so proud that,
thank you.
That you didn't let what happened to you in a childhood continue on.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, you have to break that cycle, and that's perfect. So let's move on from me, and let's move on from getting kicked out of high school English. Or no, music class. Is English too, yeah, Mrs. Hardacre. So yeah.
And she's another one that's amazing.
Oh, she's awesome. So
edits your books and
so I can't say enough great things about her.
Yeah.
Let's talk briefly about, so we talked about the improvements that you know, we could build on. Let's talk about that, things that are going not so well. So if you had a magic wand, I know they don't exist, but if you had a magic wand, you could improve one specific thing in foster care.
Can I do two?
Sure,
okay.
Sure. What would those two things be?
One of them would be I feel like there are some people that do foster care for the wrong reasons. They get that monthly check. They use it as their job or whatever. The money does not go to help support the kids. They aren't supporting the kids. There's situations where I know kids are allowed to just run around town. You know, I see them late at night, and I'm like, why are they not at home doing their homework, spending time with their foster parents, you know, getting that structure that, I mean, they didn't have the structure before in their biological home, why they were taken away, and they aren't getting it in foster care. So I would like to have a magic wand to make everyone who goes into foster care do it for the right reasons and give those kids the support that they need and the love that they need, and not do it for the paycheck, so to speak. The other thing I would like to see happen is that foster care go away from, right now, you know, it's very much, and you talk about this in your book, very much the idea to integrate them back into the biological home. It's really hard to get a child or children removed from a home, because I know some kiddos that I just can't believe that are still living in their biological home. And I think we need to get away from that. We're going to work in foster care to get them integrated into their home, and let's help the parents. If those parents were bad enough and that home situation was bad enough for these kids to finally be removed, let's work on how are we going to make these kids successful, not how are we going to get them back home. Let's leave them where they're being successful and their teachers have seen a huge improvement from where they were, how their grades came in, how their behavior was when they first came in. And if they're being successful with where they're at, let's not reintegrate them. Let's get them into college. You know, you talk about how they can go to college for free. They can get their doctorate for free. Let's educate those kids and their foster parents and make them successful, and not use them as the pawns of, well, let's send them back to their bios and see if the bios will screw up again.
Yeah.
Because my experience is usually they do. And what kind of mental or physical or long-lasting lifetime effects is that having on these little kids or teenagers or whatever that, you know, we may never know, and it may not come out till they're much older adults. But what effect is that having on them now and in the future? Let's get them out and keep them out.
You know, that's a great point, and these are very difficult decisions that would have to be made by, you know, important people for the state of Kansas and across the nation. But yes, if I don't understand why the goal has to be reunification. Why not? What is in the best interest of the child? And sometimes reintegration may be the best interest.
Exactly. It may be a different kind of situation that mom and dad just need a little break, or, you know, to learn a little something, and they can go back. But I'd bet 95% or more.
And that's the problem. So if the overall goal is reintegration with the biological family, then that drives everything. If you make the goal, and everything should go to that goal, be in the best interest of the child, then that kind of alleviates that. That allows, you know, the great people that are working in foster care, you know, the leverage and the ability to, you know, to maybe reintegration isn't the best thing, and there's a reason they were taken from the home in the first place, you know. So that's probably a conversation we could have a whole show on.
Absolutely.
And you're spot on. So now, before we leave today, I wanted you to provide one specific book. I want to give a book to the audience that you highly recommend, something that that you turn to, you know, when you need some inspiration.
Again, can I give you two?
Sure.
I'm always the overachiever, I guess. I have two. The first one I want to talk just a little bit about is called Fiercely Happy. It's by Jenny Lawson. She has a blog. She's called The Bloggess.
Okay.
Again, with some mental illness that I've experienced and I've experienced with friends. She has dealt with mental illness her whole life. And part of the way that she has dealt with that is writing her blogs. You know, she gets her thoughts out there. And she turned this into a book where she talks about how we feel our emotions so fiercely when we're so low and in that depression and anxiety state, that when we're not, we need to feel fiercely happy. Now, it may not be for everyone, because there's a little off-color language and some topics in there that not everyone's going to enjoy. My sense of humor, I loved it. It was an audiobook I listened to while I was working at my computer, and I would be laughing out loud. Or when I was working out, I'd be in the gym laughing out loud, and I was like, so I got it, and I can look past some of that language and whatever. But I do recommend that one for anybody who, you know, needs that to learn how to be fiercely happy, because she also has some great quotes that I've actually typed out and printed and hung on my wall.
Oh, nice.
Well, they actually aren't hung yet, but they're going to be. The other one that I was telling you about earlier is called Forgiveness, and it's by Matthew West. He's a Christian music singer, performer, and he was trying to write a song, trying to come up with a new idea, and this lady sent him a letter, I think just out of the blue, about how she was struggling, like, help me with forgiveness. something had happened. I think a child of hers was killed or something in a drunk driving accident or something. I can't remember all the specifics, but she was having a really hard time. She knew she needed to forgive this other person. And so he was like, wow, this is so powerful. So he reached out to the nation and said, send me other stories. I want to know other stories where either you need to forgive someone else, you need to seek forgiveness from others, you need to learn to forgive yourself. He has all these different sections, and they're very short. And he lists what they all are kind of about in the table of contents. So if you're experiencing a certain situation, then you can go, oh, that's what I need to read. And he puts the letter and talks about it, and then he puts his viewpoint. And one of the main things that came out in his song is, when you choose to forgive someone else, you set the prisoner free, and the prisoner is not the other person. The prisoner is you.
That's interesting.
You're kept in this prison if you're harboring that unforgiveness for the other person.
The book is called Forgiveness?
The book is called Forgiveness. It's by Matthew West.
Okay.
He has a song called Forgiveness. A lot of the dialogue or stories that he talks about in the song, he also has in the book.
Oh, great.
So I would highly recommend that to people.
I'll have to go out and read that. So.
You bet. And then there's all the books you recommend that I haven't gotten to yet.
Well, Annette, I really appreciate you coming on the show. This was an awesome interview. So you did a great job.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. And I'm very honored that you thought of me, especially since I did kick you out. I was that evil teacher back in the day. But
no, you're great. You're a great teacher, and you're doing great things with CASA now. And I encourage you to keep it up.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. It's not something I'm going to give up anytime soon.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. That does it for our show. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
Amen.
Hi, I'm Seth Castle, owner of Castle Books Publishing here in Hays, Kansas. I've purchased advertising time here on Eagle Community Television to help support veteran-owned small businesses in our community. So if you're a veteran-owned small business and would be interested in using this advertising time, please go to my website, www.castlebooks.com, and click on the Veterans Outreach tab. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
Learn more about us at januscampaign.org.
Simon's tax, accounting, and financial planners have been trusted by their clients for decades. At Simon's, they take a holistic approach with a comprehensive portfolio of services for their clients. Make your appointment today and enjoy a better tomorrow for you and your family. Simon's Tax, Accounting, and Financial Planners, 1007 Cody Avenue in Hays.
Every individual has value and the right to be treated with dignity. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas support persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities and are dedicated to the worth of each person. To help DSNWK give the best of a vast array of services, we invite you to log on to our Plan Giving website. It features valuable ideas on ways to plan for the future and receive benefits. Lives are transformed by your support of people with disabilities for generations to come. Developmental Services of Northwest Kansas.